Welcome back, everybody. I had a really hard time coming up with a way on how to structure this video right here. What I've decided upon just now is that I will be doing some sort of quick walkthrough on how I would actually handle things if there would be no obstacles on the road. Of course, it ain't easy, that easy in reality, and there are a lot of issues that need to be solved one way or another. And I will be coming back to each and every step of this journey later on, going into detail. But for the moment, let's just pretend that everything is going to work out in some miraculous way. So right off the bat, there's still a full course of radiation therapy in store for me, and it looks like I'm in no position to avoid this follow-up treatment to my surgery. Once I got all medical documents, as well as all relevant MRI and CT data on hand, I want to contact the hospital of the Japanese Foundation for Cancer Research in Tokyo, requesting that they continue my treatment at their facility and that they also provide an estimate of the expected costs. There's also the option of receiving a so-called medical visa while undergoing treatment in participating institutions, and the one I've selected is actually part of this list. So this is an official government program that started out about the same time as the huge earthquake, tsunami, struck in 2011. Which in turn led to the incident at the Fukushima nuclear plant. That was this program, trying to promote Japanese medical excellence around the world, hasn't really gotten off its feet off the ground yet. So this visa will actually allow me to stay in Japan for 3 months while undergoing outpatient treatments. I'm not really reliant on this kind of visa, by the way, but it's sure going to help by providing some extra time, relieving some of the pressure that's actually on me. Now, with an invitation from the hospital and the medical visa in hand, I'm going to head out to Amsterdam, to the Schiphol International Airport, hopping on a flight to Japan, preferably to Narita Airport, which is still some way outside of Tokyo. There's also the Haneda Airport directly in Tokyo, but after the long-distance overnight flight, I don't want to get thrown into this huge and bustling metropolis right away. There are various options regarding flights, but overall there's only one thing that you can be kind of sure of, and that is that it's going to be very expensive, especially since I want to go for business class. Now this is just for the additional leg room and the lie-flat seats. My family has a history of thrombosis, and my mother nearly died to one through lung embolism. We suffer from a rare condition called protein S deficiency that leads to an increased risk of thrombosis, and unfortunately it's a congenital disease, so that it's actually impossible to cure, well, at least with the state of technology right now. And there are two types of flights in general, direct flights and the other ones that actually go through the home port of the respective airlines first, before embarking on a second flight to the actual destination, which is Japan in my case. I don't think I will be able to afford a direct flight, for example with KLM. Now, for the flights with stops, I think that this one right here, with China Airways, is a pretty good offer. The planes are looking good, and but the overall duration of the flight will be longer than with some of the other airlines. China Airways is from Taiwan, and accordingly the first flight is headed to Taipei from Amsterdam. Then after a few hours you board another plane that's finally going to Japan. Another option would be a lot from Poland. They just offer regular leg room, even when flying business class for the initial trip from Amsterdam to Warsaw. But then again, the flight isn't really a long-distance one, so I guess it would be alright. The next route, of course, would be from Warsaw to Tokyo. Now, upon arrival at Narita Airport, I need to get through customs and the immigration procedures, but in my case it should go very swiftly due to the visa options I have and the lack of any serious luggage. Right after that I was planning on spending at least a day at the Narita Airport Rest House. Now this sounds actually like some kind of bathroom, but in fact it's a simple hotel located directly on the premises of the airport, where I can kind of recuperate from the flight, as I don't think that I'll be able to get any kind of sleep on the plane, despite it being an overnight flight. So now, since this radiation treatment will be an outpatient treatment, I need a place to stay in Tokyo. The upside to this is that I can, in contrast to Germany, look for a small apartment near the hospital to reduce commute times. And if things really go well, I can actually walk to and from the hospital. But the public transportation in Tokyo is probably the best in the world in terms of reliability, safety, and maintenance. So here right now you can see an example of a small short-term apartment that would be an option for as long as I'm still undergoing the treatment. Now the cost for this is pretty steep. I mean, you can see it on the picture here, but there's also an additional about, I think it was 30,000 yen that you need to pay in addition to the rent monthly, on a monthly basis. So the apartment has all the basic furniture that is required, and it's in the middle of one of the largest cities in the world. And I think overall Tokyo is not that expensive compared to major European cities, or let's say like Boston in the United States. Since the radiation therapy will require physical therapy on top to avoid any kind of permanent damage, I hope that the hospital will be able to help me by establishing some contacts with the right people. I probably need to pay for this all by myself, but in Germany I also need to pay about like 50% out of my own pocket for treatments like this, and I think overall this kind of stuff is actually cheaper in Japan than it is in Germany. So it's unlikely that this in particular will become a major issue. Now I hope that there won't be any side effects during the course of the treatment, at least none that will require real attention by additional doctors or other medical personnel. Once the planning and simulations for the radiation therapy are complete, possible side effects can usually be predicted pretty reliably before the actual treatment even starts. And well, to be honest, I have a lot of trust in the Japanese healthcare system as well as in the abilities of its staff. So I think and I hope everything will be alright. Now, upon completion of the treatment, I need to find a new home, since the apartment we looked at earlier is pretty expensive and small. But first and foremost, the thing is simply too far away from the next important stop that I have in mind, and well, that is that I finally want to get my driving license, as I don't have one yet. In Japan, it is possible to get a driver's license at selected places even without any serious knowledge of Japanese. One of those places is Tokorozawa, a motor driving school located in the Saitama province, which lies more or less just north of Tokyo itself. They have international classes on offer. You can receive all your theoretical and practical driving lessons in English after completing just a short test, where they want to make sure that your English is actually good enough to be able to follow the instructions and so on. My English isn't the best, I know that much, but I think it will surely be sufficient to get through the test and the actual lessons. I also need to undergo a special vision test due to my degraded eyesight. I checked out all the requirements before, and while my right eye is nearly blind, with good glasses or contact lenses I'm still able to pass. Now the driving license will be limited to automatic transmission vehicles at first, with the option of doing a short additional course in the aftermath for getting the extra license for manual transmission. But to be honest, I don't have that much of an issue with automatic transmission, as it will probably allow me to focus more on the actual driving, but I can still decide on this along the way, so it's nothing permanent. Other than in Germany or Europe in general, there are also a lot of automatic transmission cars on sale in Japan. The price for the estimated price for the driving license, all in all, may seem a bit steep at first for usual folks, but if I would decide on getting my license in Germany instead, it wouldn't be much cheaper actually. I'm 37 years old, and in Germany, the driving schools have some kind of weird tradition to put the trainees through at least as many practical driving lessons as they are old. So in my case, I would actually need to do like 40 of those lessons, at least. Together with the other expenses that I required, the overall cost would be similar in the end. The big advantage of getting the actual license in Japan is that they are driving, well, on the wrong side of the road from the perspective of most of us. So I can actually start out pretty fresh and unhindered, reducing the chance of any unfortunate incidents. Another thing is that at this school, which is officially accredited by the Japanese government, you don't actually need to take and pass an exam. So as soon as the course is complete and the folks and the staff at the school says you are ready, you're good to go. So the driving school itself is pretty far away if you are living in Tokyo. So my plan would be to rent a small apartment in the town of Tokorozawa itself, to be able to either walk to the school or take public transportation without the need for to pay for hefty sums in fares or spending all day on trains just for one single driving lesson. Aside from this, it would be pretty stupid to actually pay for a really expensive apartment in the middle of Tokyo just to drive into, well, in comparison, rural areas every day. Usually it's the other way around, that you drive from the countryside to the big city. Now here's an example of how such an apartment would actually look like. As you can see, it's still very small, and this time most of the furniture is missing. That means that I will need to buy a couple of cheap things like a chair, desk or a bed, or maybe just a futon, I think it's called, by myself. On the plus side, the rent is way lower than in Tokyo, as you can also see. There's the option of renting a parking space right next to the apartment building for a small amount of money. While in Tokyo itself, you can easily spend up to like 600 euros on a 24 hours parking space, and it doesn't even have to be next to the place where you actually live at, so you kind of need to walk quite a distance oftentimes. So in addition, please note that at least in the metropole areas of Japan, parking space is mandatory to actually be able to buy a car and get it on the road without running into trouble with the police. So I want to get the license as soon as possible, but of course the time that I need to spend there is actually also dependent on how flexible the team at the driving school is at the point in time where I actually get there. Maybe I can get a holiday course going or something, but as I said, it depends on the time I actually get there. Now, with the license in my possession, I want to rent one of the parking spaces next to the apartment and get it small and cheap car. As long as it can still move, I guess it will be alright, since I need to increase my mobility for the next step of my journey. Well, all the apartments we've seen so far were very small and cramped. You can't even put a double bed or a couch in there. So while it may be okay for a temporary accommodation, like for the radiotherapy or getting a driver's license, I really want to get some more space. But since we are already beyond the 12-minute mark for this video, I'm going to make a break right here, returning to the next planned step of my journey in part 2. I'm sorry for the sort of cliffhanger, but I don't want to go overboard regarding the duration of each video. And while I'm looking forward to see you again in the next part, I'm actually a bit afraid of creating that video in the first place, because I will need to provide a lot of personal information, stuff that most people would only discuss with the closest of their friends or their family. Now I'm going to post it on YouTube instead, and I guess there was a reason why I used the subtitle All In for the series of videos. But for now I want to thank you for your time. Stay tuned for part 2. Over and out.